I'd say in general, like we have a principle, we call it like the data intuition loop. It's okay when you don't have data to start with your intuition. Just make sure that you put in place the data gathering tools in order to then inform your intuition and on, right? So we are very data driven, and it's okay to make our best guess in the absence of that data, but we're very humble about the fact that like we're not going to sit behind closed doors and come up with the perfect idea or the perfect way of tackling this or the perfect go-to-market strategy. We have to be quickly iterating, quickly gathering that data, and quickly adapting, because data is king. Like my ideas are not king, our team's ideas are not king, the data is king.
Welcome to the Forward Slash Podcast, where we lean into the future of IT by inviting fellow thought leaders, innovators, and problem solvers to slash through its complexity. Today, we're talking to Zach Welchel. Zach is a software developer and entrepreneur from Lexington, Kentucky. He's the founder of My Budget Coach, the first budgeting app that connects every user with a personal coach. He has traveled to over 30 countries and once funded a summer abroad by recycling beer cups at a British music festival. Okay, we're going to have to hear more about that. He lives with his wife and two sons, who are 4 and 3, who are already learning to budget themselves. Pokemon cards aren't cheap. Welcome to the Forward Slash, Zach. Thanks for coming on the show with us.
Thanks, James. It's great to be here.
So, all right, I got to hear about this recycling beer cups. Let me hear about that.
Yeah, so when I was studying abroad in college, I lived in England the summer before actually studying at Oxford. And I was living with this elderly couple that was like a friend of a friend somehow, ended up going to a festival with like their kids. And we were volunteering, but I figured out while I was there that they had this weird program that if you turned in a paper cup from like a beer sale or whatever, you get 10 pence for that. And there were a lot of paper cups. And if you got towards the front of the stage, people would like smash them down as they were mosh pitting essentially. So you could kind of weave and duck in there and get like a whole stack of these things and turn them in. And I made over $1,000 in 3 nights of just getting 10 cents at a time, paper cups. Like the opportunity was there. I couldn't pass it up. I like slept at night in my little tent with like, they would only pay out in coins. So I had all these coins like around myself in my tent. When I finally got back home, I walked to the bank and I opened like a British bank and I like put all these coins on the table and it was over $1,000. So that bought me food for the rest of the summer when I was studying abroad.
That's fantastic. I will say, Zach used to work with us at Calibrity. You know, a few of our guests have worked at Calibrity. Zach's one of those people that like genuinely every time I talk with him, I feel like I learned something. So this is going to be a fun episode for me. I always am edified whenever I speak to Zach. So this is going to be great. You all are going to love this. So let's talk about this My Budget Coach thing. I've been seeing a lot on LinkedIn. You guys have actual like people, budget coaches like that will coach people in their finances. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so budgeting is something that I kind of fell in love with about 5 years ago. I use a tool called YNAB. It's like You Need a Budget, which is kind of one of the more popular zero-based budgeting apps. The zero base is kind of the important part for me because like before that, budgeting had always been like this kind of hypothetical thing. I used like Mint. I know a lot of people have used like Mint.com. Budgeting was always something where I like looked back at the end of the month and just kind of slapped myself on the wrist and I was like, oops, like we messed up again. We went over in this category again or whatever. And so it wasn't until I found something that was like more forward looking, which is like this zero-based budgeting concept, that it really like changed the game for us. So my wife and I like found it kind of like in a hard time, like financially for us. It was like a complete game changer. We got on the same page together. We became such believers in this type of budgeting that we like taught our friends and family. We taught like classes at our church. And what we saw over and over is like the people that got it, they would say like, it's changed my life. Like, this is amazing. Like, I feel so much control. I feel so much like peace about my money. I like feel like I can enact the plans I want to do in the world. But it was really hard to get people there. And they basically needed like a coach to get there. So I looked on the market and I didn't see any platform that existed that basically added together like the tools and the guidance. Like there's tons of apps that are tools. There's tons of like educational places that are guidance, but I didn't see a place that was tools and guidance. And I feel like when you're dealing with behavior change, you need both of those things together. And so that's why I decided to start this company.
That's fantastic. And you have how many coaches you guys have now?
So we have a Discord channel of about 120 coaches, kind of from across the
Wow.
country. About 30 of them have launched on the platform. It's kind of a process to launch on the platform, and we can get into some of this. But we have each coach kind of create like a digital avatar version of themselves, kind of like a way that they walk people through budgeting, teach them how they budget, maybe like create categories for them after asking questions. And all of this is like automated and digital. It's not AI. It's like a kind of a choose your own path, like logical structure that they've created, kind of like a video game character. If you're talking to a game character, how like dialogue options would branch, it's kind of like that. So yeah, 120 coaches like in our network, but about 30 of those have launched on the platform.
Oh, that's fantastic. I know. Is this related to like, I've heard of it called like envelope accounting or something like that? Is that kind of the same sort of concept? You mentioned the zero thing. Is that the same thing?
Yeah, the idea is you just give every dollar a job before you spend it, right? So
Mm.
most people spend their money and they didn't really like have a plan for it. So this is like you take every dollar that you own, you give it a job, and then you spend according to those jobs, right? So like the easiest way to think about that is the envelope system or whatever. Back in the day when you got paid in cash, divide your cash up into envelopes and then go out and spend based on those envelopes. And people think of that as like super restrictive because they're like, what if I, run out of money in the grocery envelope or whatever? The idea is that it shouldn't be restrictive. You should be able to pull money between envelopes at any point.
Mm.
The cool thing though is you're just making value based trade offs, right? Like if you want to go and spend extra money on eating out and you're out of eating out money, you get to look at those other envelopes and be like, well, where do I want to pull that money from? And when you do that, you're making a values trade off decision that you don't get to make if you're just looking at a bank balance and saying like, I guess we have the money, let's go do it. Because every dollar has an opportunity cost, and if you don't have a plan, you don't know what that opportunity cost is, and so you're kind of making these decisions without really knowing what you value more.
I love how you explain that. Just slap myself on the wrist and say, "Oops." I find that it's only a problem when my wife overspends. You know what I mean? Like
Of
when I
course,
do
yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, like it was necessary when I did
Of
it. But
course.
when the wife, what are you kidding me? No, this it has actually. I mean, when you mentioned like it does change people's lives. It definitely helped us budget better and go into that kind of that envelope mindset of hey, we have to make a choice. Do we take money out of our kids' college fund so we can buy some hot wings? That kind of thing. We make the obvious choice there to do the right
Sure,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The hot wings, yeah.
Now, this thing you've been like the products. I'm just interested in talking to you from a product and startup and that kind of mindset. You kind of this was a labor of passion that you were kind of doing in the evenings and weekends and stuff like that. Tell me about that experience. How did that go for you?
Yeah, so this is something that I've been kind of, low key obsessed with for a number of years now. I dabbled on it maybe like 4 years ago, but at that point, I was like kind of creating a project from scratch, like in the nights and weekends, right? And that's just wasn't going to happen in a small non-venture backed startup, right? So over the years, played with it on and off. Eventually, discovered an open source alternative to YNAB, and that was kind of what gave me the ability to really do this because there's this code base that's been developed by hundreds of people, has a lot of that basic functionality, and what we really needed was a strong base to build the kind of coaching layer on top of. So yeah, moonlit for a while, nights and weekends, but really the thing that unlocked the ability to kind of go solo and create this company was an open source project that had the licensing that allowed me to do this essentially.
So I've dabbled a little in the open source world myself at the Apache Software Foundation for many years. I know and especially with some of the things that have gone on with some of these open source products, the open source community, it's kind of funny. They can seem a little adversarial with commercial efforts over this. So I'm sure they welcomed you with open arms, right? I mean, the community. How was that
Yeah,
experience for you?
okay, so the project that we like open source is called Actual Budget, and it
Okay.
started by a guy who now I think works for I think it's either Stripe or Square, one of those kind of bigger financial companies out in Silicon Valley. But he started this on the side as well. Started as a for-profit company, and then basically didn't reach the scale that he needed to keep it going, and so he open sourced it. When he did, it kind of new life got breathed into it. Lots of people kind of surrounded it. There's a core maintainer group of about 8 to 12 people on rotation. They have their own Discord server, and they've got, hundreds of people in there, thousands of people that are using it, hundreds of developers. So going into that community and kind of playing the political game of like, hey, I'm a newcomer here, but like I have this vision. I'd love to use actual as the base of it. And I see this mutually beneficial path in which, the friendly fork concept in which, we need things that you need things that we need. Let's do this. And initially it was political, and there was a lot of
Hmm.
pushback, and most of the pushback came from not the maintainers, but just kind of developers in the community. And it makes sense. They're all pitching into this for free, and why could somebody go and profit off of that? And the licensing allowed for it, but even though it allowed for it, I wanted to make sure that I had like kind of the good grace of the community in doing that. And so basically, long story short, we had to go in and earn the respect by
Hmm.
proving that we were willing to give back. And so we took two of the kind of highest like requested features on their GitHub issues. One was like bank sync in the US, which is a huge deal, with a budgeting app. They had kind of like a roundabout way of doing that in which you could use like scripts and import stuff, but actually taking that and putting it into the app so you can just click a sync button and it pulls in all of your banks. Like we ended up implementing that for actual, which was a big deal. And the second one, if you're into like the budgeting world, you know that you have to like reconcile your accounts to make sure that
Hmm.
everything kind of lines up. When you reconcile, it's nice to have them like kind of lock reconciled transactions so that you know that at that point beyond, like you were reconciled. And so we added that feature as well. So after we did that, people were much more open to like this concept working with us, and kind of we earned the respect at that point.
Yeah, I think usually the important thing. The community is going to be much more receptive when you're giving back, as you were saying, or merging upstream, right? Contributing back to the upstream project. A lot of folks will just extend the thing and go off and do their commercial thing and never look back. So that's great. That's a tough tightrope to navigate. It sounds like you guys did it the right way. That's fantastic. All right, I got to know, how did you do the syncing with banks? What did you use? Plaid or
Okay, so,
something?
so when we initially did it, we did a tool called SimpleFin, which uses like MX on the back end.
Hmm.
The problem with SimpleFin is it's like individual. So the way this code base was set up, it was set up to be used like individually by a person. So you would host it on your own server, or you could use
Hmm.
like a Picapod situation or something like that, where you like spun up an instance. And so when we first started the company, the way that new users would sign up would be like they'd fill out a form, and we would go and spin up a server for them, and then send them an email with a URL that pointed specifically to that server that was like specific to their name. It was terrible, right? So that they'd get a specific URL, they'd go type in a password, and that would kind of be their thing. But then they could sign up for SimpleFin on the side and connect it. But it wasn't something that we could pay for and host ourselves and those things. So we had to switch to Plaid eventually. Recently we switched to like the single server model where, there's like the normal off flow, like logging in. Like
Hmm.
all this is kind of the pain points of like starting with an open source project that's not necessarily built for what we need it to be, but like moving it towards that. And then also just the idea of like, not letting, good be the enemy of great or whatever, like not letting,
Perfect.
still
Be the
starting,
enemy of good.
sure, something like that. It's still
Yeah. Yeah.
starting the company, even though we have like these weaknesses, because there's so much that we've built, knowing that we'll get there with the product over time. And so we, you have to start early and pivot and pivot and pivot and listen to your users, build a community, listen to that community, right? That's one of the great things of this Discord server is we have all these coaches that are talking about their pain points, and we can hear those pain points and say, that's great. What if we built this to solve it? Would that be helpful? So, you wear a lot of hats in a small startup, and I'd say like getting started quickly in all these areas is better than waiting for it to be perfect.
What has your mechanism been for? I mean, primarily to the Discord server, and the coaches themselves are kind of your feedback mechanism, or do you talk to the individual users who are leveraging the coaches, or both?
Yeah, we try to talk to both. So like part of our like email sequences that go out to users, like offer them free Amazon money if they jump on a call with me or whatever. So I'll get, users who will just jump on a call and give their feedback. But also the coaches are huge, right? They're like boots on the ground. Like usually when you're starting like a SaaS company, you would have a you'd have like a support model where you have like a support team or like people doing email support or maybe phone support. We have coaches, right? So we've replaced that support concept with like coaching. So it's much more personal, it's much more boots on the ground, and like we get really direct and helpful feedback of these people that are meeting with our users. So it's kind of an interesting model, and yeah, we'll see how it goes.
You mentioned, you kind of did some analytics or some kind of, I don't know what that process looked like for you, but like, understanding the market up front to say where is there a gap, where is there a need that I can fill in this market that I can help people out and change their lives, right? Uh, how did you go about that? Are there tools you use that for that, or is this just kind of an intuition thing? How did you go about that?
Yeah, so I would say that I probably didn't validate this as much as I should have. So to me, this was an intuition that I saw in my personal life, right? Like I saw that, friends and family struggled with money, and when we helped them get to this point, just personally, then it was a life changer. Now, this is very much like it feels like a vitamin instead of like a what do they call that? Like the vitamin versus the painkiller or whatever. Like you want to be solving an acute problem that people are going to seek you out on, not just saying like, "Hey, this would be good for you if you did that." And a lot of
Mhm.
that's like in the marketing or whatever. But I'd say in general, like we have a principle, we call it like the data intuition loop, right? So like it's okay when you don't have data to start with your intuition. Just make sure that you put in place the data gathering tools in order to then inform your intuition and on, right? So we are very data driven, and it's okay to make our best guess in the absence of that data, but we're very humble about the fact that like we're not going to sit behind closed doors and come up with the perfect idea or the perfect way of tackling this or the perfect go to market strategy, right? Like we have to be quickly iterating, quickly gathering that data, and quickly adapting because data is king. Like my
Mhm.
ideas are not king, our team's ideas are not king. The data is king.
So we've had some folks from the product world on in the past few episodes. What they mentioned, that whole data that you need to hear from your users, and you'd be collecting data. You mentioned you hop on an Amazon call. How do you derive data from those Amazon calls? Because that's important to hear what they're saying. Are you jotting down notes, or are you how are you doing that?
Yeah, I'd say until you hit like like a certain scale, like it's all anecdotal, right? And we're not
Hmm.
at that scale yet where we can like find like super meaningful trends in like hundreds of responses or whatever, right? So it's anecdotal. Like you hear that particular person, you solve for their particular need. I think this is what like Brian Chesky, is that the Airbnb guy, talks about. He's like,
Hmm.
maybe I can't solve everybody's problems, but I can hyper focus on one person and solve it for them. And likely there's enough overlap in there that you can expand from there. So we try to get. I mean, budgeting itself is super personal, right? Like you're talking about somebody's like hopes and desires and like the life they want to build, and why aren't they building that yet, and how can we spend in a way that aligns with those values. So like all of it's super personal, and getting into what makes somebody tick or what makes them dream essentially, and then trying to provide the platform, the tools, and the guidance to help get them there.
Are you building any sort of kind of user observability? I don't even know what the official term is for it, but like being able to actually watch what your users are doing, and not so much hear what they're saying verbally, but actually see their behavior and any behavior analytics tools in the platform itself.
Yeah, so if I could show you like off screen over here, I've got like monitors set up, and they're like our user data. So we've got charts that show kind of like new users coming in. We grade all of our users based on these like health metrics that we would call in budgeting. So like the health metric is like number one, like are you visiting your budget? How often are you visiting your budget? Is it, on a small screen, like a phone, or is it on a large screen? Because those have kind of different use cases. We track how often somebody categorize as a transaction, how often they change their budgeting amounts, how often they interact with their coach, all of these health metrics, and we use those to give them like an overall letter grade. And so we're tracking people's letter grades of like involvement over time, and then using that to inform how we email them in our sequences, and then also like how we edit like our things. So yeah, we are very much, again, data driven, right? Like gather as much data as you can, use that data to inform things, run A/B tests, and then hope that you can eventually kind of crack the problem. Like this is a very a very hard behavioral problem. Like we're trying to take somebody from being one way and helping them become the type of person who is a different way, right? I used to be kind of frivolous or not intentional with my money. Now I'm very intentional with my money. And that's a huge behavioral shift. And so I see us as kind of like this like hosting ground for those relationships between the users and the coaches. Kind of like an Airbnb platform would be kind of like the hosting ground between like the traveler and the host. Like we we want to make this place as helpful as possible for those relationships to flourish so that behavior change can happen. So it's important for us to grade users, but it's also important for us to give that visibility to the coach, because coaches beforehand, they had no sort of concept of like having that data on their clients or seeing how they were doing, right? So like we're creating this whole like CRM layer where coaches can kind of keep track of all their clients, but also have those insights that they didn't have before.
We haven't talked much about AI yet, but I know, like, if you're building a product these days, there's bound to be some flavor of AI that can help you. And I know this isn't your first rodeo with being an entrepreneur, right? You've
Yeah, I've done this a couple times. I have failed and I've somewhat succeeded before. So mostly failed though.
That's okay. It takes a few eggs, blah blah blah. Words, words, words. All of the little phrases and
Oh yeah.
whatnot. Yeah, I mean, you do that. That's how you learn, right? You fail, and that's how you learn. Now, would you say that this is kind of cool? You have an interesting perspective. You've done this pre AI, and now you're doing it in kind of the AI age. Um, is it easier? Are you more effective? Do you have better confidence? All of those kind of questions. How has that experience been for you?
Yeah, well, it's not quite apples and oranges because I have more confidence already just having done this before, right? But AI is just like an accelerant to that, absolutely. So like part of the problem here is, and I've never done funding before. I've never done venture capital. I've always bootstrapped my startups, and so you're always wearing multiple hats. And AI like is just uniquely good at helping somebody who's wearing multiple hats, because like I might be 40% effective at all of these things. AI can push me to like 60%. AI is probably not 100% at anything, but that's okay because we're not a company full of specialists who are all at 100% of their game. We're a company of generalists, and so AI can push us up that 20% or whatever. So I mean, from a coding perspective, like I am constantly working with AI to like build out parts of like what we're adding on top of this code base, and it enables me. I think on average, like something that would take me like 3 days, it takes me a day's worth of work. Maybe it maybe cuts it by it puts it into a third or whatever. Um, but yeah, like features I wouldn't have tackled beforehand, I tackle now because I know I can do them quicker. I'm just so much quicker at iterating because of that. So that's like the coding perspective, and like that's super interesting, and it's super helpful there. The marketing perspective, um, the social perspective, the SEO perspective, like all of those things we've leaned into as well. I will say that building AI into like our product itself, we haven't gotten there yet, and part of that's like intentional because we want users to feel like a high level of agency and like how they control their money and what they choose to spend that on. And I don't want to lean into like the side of like financial apps that are like we did everything for you, because I don't think that changes behavior. Um, and it
It's
doesn't
kind of
really
like
align
writing
with like
notes. Writing notes with a pencil is better, for retention than, like, just recording your voice or
yeah.
whatever. Yeah, that kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah, and part of what we're trying to fight against is like the budgeting apps that are like you don't really live in them. You just refer to them at the end of the month, and you're like, again, they're like, oh shoot, I messed up, right? And so we don't want to automate a ton of the process because we want the user to have to engage with it. So yeah, I mean, on the whole, I'd say AI has been huge in helping me not entirely go solo. Like at this point, we have a team of I think 6 part-time people that are kind of including myself. So like we have a team, but yeah, it's huge. It's super helpful.
Yeah, I've noticed, and personally for me, I am able to start and abandon many more side projects now. You know what I mean? Like I used to be able to maybe do 2 a month. Now I can do 12, 15 if I want, and it's no
It's,
problem at all.
it's incredible. Yeah, that's great.
You mentioned SEO. Now, are you using, like you're doing more traditional SEO, or are you leaning in? There's kind of that new concept where it's like you want to do things to make the LLMs say, use my budget coach, right? Like the SEO inside the LLM. Are you leaning into any of that?
Yeah, so I'd say that like for the first like year, we've been focusing on traditional SEO. So we've been using tools like Ahrefs and looking for like, high quality backlinks and ranking in certain keywords and all of those things. And now I feel like we should be switching our efforts to like, I don't know, I've heard like LEO, I've heard AEO, I've heard different things that people call this like whatever you want to call SEO for
Hmm.
AI. I will say that we've had some of our like individual coaches who have gotten client referrals through like ChatGPT already. So something that they're doing, individually on their websites, and oftentimes for our coaches, if you search their name, like their directory listing on My Budget Coach is now their top thing that pops
Hmm.
up, which is kind of cool. So I don't know, man. Like getting out there, getting high quality backlinks. Like we've gone to a ton of conferences. We've made a bunch of relationships. We've gotten listed on a bunch of, other websites kind of in the personal finance space. And our domain rating is like kind of slowly ticking up. I think Ahrefs puts us at like a mid 20s now. Maybe we started at like a 13 or something.
Hmm.
Whereas our top competitors are in the 70s. So, I don't know what those metrics fully mean, but it's a long game. SEO is a long game, and so as far as AI goes, like we've used some AI to create like some blog content that we know is going to rank in certain keywords, and then once we see like what ranks, we go in and do like human editing of those blogs. But we don't like forward face those blogs like on our website. They're kind of buried a little bit for the AI to find, for Google to find as they index it or whatever. So we're trying to figure all that out. Again, I don't know that I'd recommend this strategy for like a company with a lot of resources, but for a small company that has to like make do, like this is what we're doing and it's working.
Now, do you, when you prompt, when you're writing those blog posts, are you asking the AI, hey, specifically write this with SEO in mind? Or is that the kind of conversation you're having with your digital friend?
So there are tools that live like an abstraction on top of it that help you do SEO with AI. So we use like a tool called like machined.ai, and we basically say like here's a topic. It goes out and finds, a list of article topics that could do. It searches what ranks well. It puts kind of all that data together, and then it runs through the LLM itself and says, write an article that has these things, and it kind of has best prompts built in. So like we literally feed a couple things to a tool. The tool spits out all these articles. Those pull right into our Webflow, and boom, we're publishing a lot of blogs.
Nice. And I think we've used tools like in the past, like was it SEMrush or something like that, that helps you understand like what's resonating with people, what where are their gaps, what are people not talking about yet, those sort of things. So you're almost like it's like an agent that would go out and use one of those tools on your behalf and saying doing the analytics for you. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I mean, like at the end of the day, like you're trying to fill the needs of what people are searching for. Like that's what SEO is, right? So like people out there are looking for something, you figure out what they're looking for that you can solve, and then kind of tie it back to your product. So it's kind of a really cool thing in theory. It's just really hard to make work, right? And I think it's just a long game. And so we're putting our time in and playing that long game. But I mean, we also have like outbound efforts. Like we just created a Discord channel in our like our Discord. It's called the Go Get 'em channel, and it has like social listening, and so it listens for certain keywords like on Reddit, or we're going to be adding like X and Facebook and all those things. But somebody will mention like budget coach on Reddit, and instantly we get like this notification in our Discord channel that links to it. So all 120 coaches can basically go get them, right? Like we're not only waiting for people to come to us, but we're finding them and going out and offering our services that way.
Nice. It's like a lawyer listening for the ambulance to fire up, right? That kind of thing.
Sure, sure, yeah, yeah.
That's pretty cool. So now, is it like a competition? Like all 120 coaches go after the same person if they're on Reddit saying, "Oh my gosh, 20 boxes from Amazon on my porch again." Like that. Like, is that what happens, or are they like doing the furniture store model where it's like, okay, it's my turn?
Yeah, so this is kind of the cool thing about like building this community of coaches is like there was no like community of budget coaches before. So like our role is to kind of like shepherd that culture a little bit. I mean, these are individuals building their own businesses. We want to build a platform that they can build their business on, but we kind of have a little bit of like influence in saying, "Hey, here's all this Reddit stuff, but just so you know, like we've done this for a while. We know how Reddit works best. Like the idea is you get out there and you offer real value. You jump in the conversation, you offer real value. You go back and forth several times with like really understanding that person, what they need, how you can help. And then maybe at the end you say, oh, also, like, I'm a coach, here's my listing on the platform, like if you're interested. But again, our job isn't to spam. Our job is to truly provide value in the world. And, whether that's just commenting on Reddit or somebody engaging the platform, like, our mission as a company is to help the world fall in love with budgeting. And that kind of extends to more than just, making money off subscriptions or whatever.
So you're bootstrapping a company. What does the product itself look like right now? How is it embodied? Is this a mobile app? Is it a web app? Is it, how are you guys bringing this thing to market and getting it in front of people?
So it's primarily a web app currently. It's like a React app, and we are making like a mobile component. It's currently going to be kind of a wrapper around the mobile with some like native built on top of it, particularly for like push notifications and messaging, so you can quickly kind of message back and forth and not have to get back to your computer. So primarily web, but we're pushing into mobile, and that's kind of where we are.
I know one of the things that's always been a frustration point for me with any of these like budgeting apps that I've used through the years is that you mentioned earlier categorization of transactions, like choosing the right one and all of that. And you do want to be intentional about it. So having like a mechanism for, suggesting or pre-choosing or whatever you want to call it is nice, but it can tend to cause a little bit of garbage because you're just like, oh yeah, sure, accept all that stuff, and you may not be as intentional. How are you guys? How's that experience for you guys been? How are you bringing that to your users?
Yeah, we do a little bit of both. We have like a rules engine where it kind of learns based on like what you've categorized in the past. I know some of the other companies, this is a part where they are leaning into AI, especially around
Mm-hmm.
like smart categorization or even just enriching transactions. I don't know if you've ever worked with like raw bank transaction data, but it's like terrible, right? You'll go
Mm.
and buy something at the gas station, and instead of gas station, it says like 01187, da da da. It's like a terrible, and like you can Google that and figure out that it's the gas station, but it's not very clear. So enriching data and smart categorization is something that people are using AI for. We haven't gotten there yet. So our data is just kind of whatever Plaid gives us, and then we have a rules engine on top of that.
Yeah, I know Plaid does a little bit themselves. They send through. They'll make their best guess at what code or whatever. I forget what. There's a standardized code list of all these different, market segments or whatever. Do you leverage that at all?
Yeah, so we have some like we have some code that's it's not in production yet, but we've like played around with like Plaid will give you like this is probably the category. Maybe these are
Mm-hmm.
some suggestions of what the category is. So the interesting thing for us is we allow users to create whatever categories they want, right? So we're not sticking to that master list of like what Plaid would consider those like merchant categories. So we have this like interesting mapping of like, the user created this category. It typically matches to these Plaid categories. So when this new Plaid category comes in, then we can suggest accordingly. So we're working on like what that could look like.
So we have a segment. We'll move on to our next segment of the show that we call "Ship It or Skip It."
ship or skip. Everybody, we gotta tell us if you ship or skip.
I knew that you were in this world of budgeting and personal finance and whatnot. And I went on a trip recently, and I was listening to. I'd never heard this book or read this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I forget what the gentleman's name that wrote it, but I would love to hear your topic. So he's got this really interesting mentality of like, if I want something, and I'm not all the way through the book, but the gist of it is like, if you want something that costs money, go buy an asset that makes you that money first, and then you can have that. Like if I want a more expensive house or car, like first I go buy assets that generate that money for me, and then I can go have that thing. Huh, interesting take. And I thought I just wanted to hear your ship it or skip it on that one.
Interesting. I'd say in general, I'd say ship it. Yeah. So like most people live at their means, right? They
Mm-hmm.
spend the money that they make. And that concept basically is spent living below your means, right? It's living in a way that you consistently can live below your means. You take that money and you use money to make more money. And that's one of the really powerful things about budgeting is because it helps you live below your means. It helps you build up those reserves of savings that then go into investments that eventually get you to the point where you don't have to rely on income as much. I mean, I quit my full-time job a year ago. I used to make good money. Now I'm currently, bootstrapping a company. And part of the reason I was able to do that was because we we lived below our means for a decade or more, right? And saved all that money and invested that money, and it allowed me to pursue something that I would say is a dream of mine. So, yeah, I'd say ship it.
So you weren't making decisions like, take away my children's college fund for hot wings. You weren't making those kind of money choices, is what you're telling me.
No, I mean, we still make trade-off decisions, but yeah, I mean, I have started companies in the past where I had no money in reserve and it was super stressful. This
Mm.
is a different deal because we've spent a decade preparing for this essentially.
I do think of the ship it. I love that idea, that mentality of being a little more intentional with your money and not just, I'm just going to go out and buy this thing and go into debt. I'll go buy an asset that can help me pay for that thing. That's an interesting concept. Next, it would be like, the idea of going out on your own. I mean, being your own boss, starting your own business. You've done it a few times. If you had to give advice to someone, would you be like, oh, absolutely, you should do that? Or would it be like, no, it's very stressful, or whatever? Well, what would your advice be?
Yeah, I mean, there are pros and cons to both styles of life. I mean, I obviously I worked at Liberty, loved my time there. I miss a lot of like the really fun aspects of that. And like, there was a lot of great there. There's also a lot of great in going out and doing something on your own, right? So I'd say it depends on your personality, what you enjoy, what you want to accomplish. I would say from like a financial standpoint, I don't think that the incentives are there to go out and do your own thing. I'd say that like if you just wanted to slowly kind of steadily build wealth over time, it makes more sense to take the sure bet of having like a W-2 and having a consistent job. Um, but to me, like the money is a small part of the equation, right? To me, it's more about wanting to spend my time building something that I believe in or that I feel like might have a positive impact that also aligns with like a passion area of mine. So I would say that like if you have that bend, if you have that desire to do it, then yes, eventually do it. Set yourself up in a position where you can do it with some reserve, and so you're not super stressed. But also like really validate your idea before you jump to an idea, right? Like you should be moonlighting, you should be making revenue, you should be doing all those things before you jump. And I too many times in my career have gone solo on something that had no validation that I just thought was a great idea. And I don't think that's the way you do it. Again, the data is king. Like your ideas are intuition, and that's a good place to start. But until you have data to back that up, like don't treat yourself as some genius that knows what the world needs or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. I know I was probably more lucky than good when it comes to like, starting my own business. I was an independent consultant for many, many years, and it's not like a product company or anything, but um, I was definitely lucky to stay busy for as much as I did as an independent. That's usually a tough thing to do when you're independent. But I did enjoy that. And you're right. I mean, obviously the money is there, but um, the being your own boss is kind of cool, right? I mean, it's especially if you're able to do the things you want to do and engage in the type of work you want to work on. Yeah, it's there's more to it than just the money. I love that. So I'm with you. Ship it.
Yeah. Pros and cons, yeah, I would say ship it, but again, it's an individual thing. I wouldn't ship it for everyone.
Right. And don't ship it prematurely. We've asked folks, and I got to ask, this has been kind of the running question that we've asked a lot of folks is around this notion of vibe coding, right? Like, what do you think about this idea of vibe coding?
I mean, I guess it's like how you define it. Like, I'm probably going to say ship it because a lot of what I do is vibe coding, but it's like isolated and it makes sense to do that. So, for example, I wouldn't go into like the core of our product and start just like vibe coding away and letting AI make a ton of changes because like I don't trust it to do that, right? But if I'm building something kind of isolated, like a new feature that just has a couple of inputs and like the result of it isn't, might be informative, but it's not super like could mess a bunch of stuff up, then yeah, vibe code that all day. Like I don't care whether the code is beautiful. I don't care like any of those things. Like I need to get to market. I need to get ideas out quickly and I need to see if they work. And so when it comes to like building dashboards for our coaches or, gosh, I'm working on a mobile app right now and I'm vibe coding my way through like the React Native portion of it. And it's okay because I know what's crucial to the business and I know what we can afford to kind of like get out there quick and dirty. And so, I'd say ship it all day. But again, this has always been my bent, right? Like I want to move quickly. I want to get things out there. I want to iterate. And so for me particularly, AI has been amazing because like I would even say like when I did back when I was like interviewing for tech companies or whatever, I'd always like preface with like, hey, I didn't study this stuff in school. So I wouldn't call myself like book smart, right? I don't know like the proper way to do, I don't know, any of these like leak code things that people do, right? That stuff
Leak code.
drives me crazy, right? Like all of the interviews for tech jobs are all like leak code, and it's like if I need that, I can look it up, I can figure it. But I would always say like I feel like I'm street smart, but I'm not very book smart. And so maybe I know the ideas of like how I should go about tackling a problem, but when it comes to like writing the perfect syntax for whatever, like I'm gonna Google that. And so AI for me is like even more powerful because it takes somebody
Mm.
that's maybe street smart and makes them appear more book smart, whereas book smart has always been kind of my weakness. So I, I'm a huge fan of it. I'll say ship it.
Yeah, you mentioned something that I thought has been tough for me to like kind of pinpoint. Okay, I kind of get what people mention vibe coding, what they mean, but like, what's the actual definition? Because like, if it's just using AI to generate code for you, yeah, ship it. Now, is it, hey AI, I need blah 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 blah, and it says here it is, and you're like, yep, YOLO that to prod. Yeah, I don't know about that idea, but maybe review it a little, or um, so I'm ship it. Yes, for using AI to help me generate code, I definitely do that. But not this. Like I think some of the examples were like I don't know the guy generated an entire like game and put it on out in the didn't even really like review it. He just said here's a video game and put it out in the market and he's making money on it.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, ship it. Like, say you have like a dashboard and you want to add like a section where you click it and it shows you like this visual of it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's no writing to the database. There's no implications there. Like, if it looks like that visual is working and you test it, like, sure, ship it because there's not huge implications to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. Like, if you're doing like the core stuff, like scrutinize it. Like, this is your business. Like all that stuff.
So it's like more of a kind of a what's your risk tolerance kind of a mentality there. If you're messing around with like the crown jewels of your business and then your product, probably not a good idea. But yeah, the ancillary low risk
Yeah.
parts.
And then also practically, like I always get to like version like 14 or 26 or something with AI. I'm going back and forth with AI a ton of times and it's
Mm-hmm.
rewriting all this stuff. And at some point, and I don't know how common this is, but at some point I copy what it has and put it over, and then I don't let it redo the whole thing again anymore because I don't trust that it's not going to mess up what it's been creating. So at
Mm-hmm.
that point, I'll specifically say, just show me the parts to copy and paste and edit. And it only gives me those little small parts to edit. And that's where I take it forward. So I very rarely let AI rewrite a bunch of stuff because I don't trust it to not mess it up. I'm always having to give me sections and putting those sections in because then I can logically think through it as I go.
So there's another topic for like ship it or skip it, and you have a unique perspective on this probably. I know a lot of folks in the startup world and when you're bootstrapping a company, um, there can be this tendency to like eschew quality, and when I say quality, I mean like the book smart folks would you got to have unit tests, you got to have this, you got to have that, like all of those things. It doesn't mean the experience suffers necessarily, but we'll rewrite that once we get to our A round or whatever, right? Those sort of things, like the big rewrite step. What are your thoughts on kind of that mentality of getting a product out to market?
Yeah, I'd say I'm definitely more on like the scrappy side and the okay with the quality being lower. Again, on the architecture side of things, the
Mm-hmm.
end user experience is I do not sacrifice on that, right? I want the end user to not know the difference of what's going on behind the scenes. Now, I will say again, it's not like a black and white decision though. Like it's again that crown jewels concept. Like the core stuff that we know needs to be very good, you make that very good. But the ancillary things that you can afford to be scrappy on, you be scrappy on. So I'm constantly making those trade-off decisions. But again, I'm not just a developer anymore. My job is not just to make great code. My job is to run an entire company. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that means making these trade-off decisions in order to do that. And so, yeah, I know that with time there will come more focus on all of these areas. But we're either going to make or break based on how quickly we find product market fit and those things. And so I have to kind of keep the main goal in sight. And so like I have to constantly be living, the 30,000 foot level and then back in the weeds and then back and forth and back and forth. And part of that's what I love doing. So I'm grateful to be able to do that. But sometimes, yeah, that means skimping in areas, and that's something I'm okay with.
Yeah, that one's kind of I'm a little bit torn. I think I'm with you. I would lean more, especially on the startup side, towards where you are being scrappy. You think of like the clean code books of the world and the Uncle Bobs of the world. They say, "Oh, to go fast is to go well." Like they're synonymous. And come on, I've written a lot of code, and I can surely get things done much faster by skipping the unit tests. I know I can do that. And not doing TDD. Based on where I am in my career, I know I can do that. But I don't know. I'm with you on that on a startup. Now, if you're in an enterprise and a well established, you already have the business.
Yeah,
you need to be a little
of
more
course.
meticulous, of course. But
Yeah, and the world that Calibrity is one in which you guys are writing excellent stuff for clients, like all of that, right? It's a different world than a non-venture backed single founder startup that's trying to find product market fit. So there are different things that are appropriate in different places.
So that does it with Ship It or Skip It. We're going to go on to our most important segment of the show. This is why we save it for last, because it is the most important segment, and it's high stakes, high risk, and so there are questions that we will ask you. We call this our lightning round. Very, very high stakes. This can make or break the entire episode. If you get these wrong, I mean,
Wow.
sometimes we've chosen we don't even release the episode if you get them wrong, right? I mean, it's
Okay.
this level of.
Is this like a yes no, or is this like a?
It can be
Okay.
yes or no. There are some of those questions, but there are others that are a little more involved, and it's really gonna make you think. You know what I mean? Like these are
yeah.
deep thinking, deep thoughts, like Jack Handy from SNL.
Okay.
So, but this is really where we really get into what the industry is thinking about. You know what I mean?
Great.
And this is the important stuff. Okay, so question number 1: invisibility or super strength?
Oh wow. Yeah, I'm gonna go invisibility for sure.
Okay.
Do you need like a
I mean, you don't have to
supporting answer
justify
there,
your answer. I
or?
mean, but I think that can be. I mean, I might need a little more here, but
Yeah, so I'd say that like in today's world, like like physical ability isn't as valued as thinking or thoughts, and invisibility allows you to get in places and hear things and know things. One of my favorite artists name is Ben Rector, and he has this quote where he's like, yeah, it's great that I can sing. I live in a generation that values singing. Like if I lived back in medieval England, they'd be like, yeah, shut up, just thatch this roof with us, right? And so like living in the generation where your skills are valued is good. And so I'd say like invisibility plays towards like the mental skills of the day more than like physical strength does. There's my answer. Okay.
that's a deep answer. I like it. Now, I mean, we're in the information age, so I mean,
Yes.
yeah, you don't muscle your way to information. I mean, I guess you can, but anyway, what is your favorite season?
I'm gonna go with spring.
We don't need any justification there. It sounds like a legitimate answer. What's your favorite type of tea?
I usually don't drink tea unless I'm in England, and I slowly habituate to it. So I'm gonna say no tea.
No tea. Okay. Have you ever tasted soap?
Yes.
Are your grandparents mildly rude?
No, my grandparents are all very, very kind people.
Black beans or refried beans in your burrito?
No beans.
No beans in the burrito.
Yeah.
I don't know about that answer. We're going to have to run that past the committee, see if that's acceptable or not. What would you say? Where would you rate yourself for karaoke skills on a scale from maybe like 1 to Mariah Carey?
Oh, like zero. I absolutely detest karaoke. I I did musical theater in high school, and it was kind of a traumatic experience, and so I'm out on it now.
So, what would you say was your the role that kind of turned you away? Who
So
were
I
you?
was in Greece, and they made me be the teen angel. I don't know if you're familiar with this role, the person that comes down from on high and sings very eloquently in the beauty shop or whatever. And I was not well equipped for the role, so that was a little traumatic for me.
Do you have any friends taller than 6'4"?
I have one of my best men in my wedding is very tall. I don't know if he's taller than 6'4" though. 6'4" is pretty tall,
That
right?
is tall. It is tall. Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
it would be abnormal. Probably, I would guess. The percentage of people. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think he's that tall. My wife
Okay.
is very short. I joke that my wife is 4 foot 13 inches. It's pretty good,
Well,
right?
how does she like that?
I think she's fine with that. Yeah,
She's okay with it. Okay.
she's actually five
Uh,
one, but yeah,
I was able to do the math.
got
I
it.
learned modular arithmetic in
There you
college.
go.
Yeah, I got that book
See,
smart stuff.
that's one of those leak code things, right? That
Yeah,
modular 12 or whatever. That's one of those leak code things.
it is. I'm one of those lead coders. Yes, for sure. Godfather or Star Wars?
Oh, absolutely Star Wars. Although I lost faith until the Andor season. Have you watched Andor yet?
I have not yet. Good. Yeah.
Andor is it's fantastic. It takes everything to a next level. Very good.
Totally redeemed yourself, kind of a thing, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, yes.
So, all right, and let's end on the real important question that I know we're all dying to know: sourdough or wheat?
I'm gonna have to go sourdough just because my wife is into it. She does the whole
The
thing.
starter and all that
The
fun stuff.
starter. She does like the SCOBY for the kombucha too. All these things that kind of weird me out, but she's into it, so I'll be
Okay.
supportive.
Yeah, that's good to be supportive, especially since you say she's 4 foot 13. You probably need to every now and then be supportive to get forgiveness for
Counter
those sort of comments.
counterbalance
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. All right. So, any closing remarks? Any things the words of wisdom or things you might want to share with the folks?
Yeah, I would say like my story is one of taking that leap, going out there, trying to do something that I love and that I value, but taking a risk, right? High risk, high reward. I don't know. I think there are pros and cons to that. There are lessons to be learned. If that's something that you're interested in, um, yeah, I'd love to talk to you or whatever. I talk to people all the time who say, should I do this as well? Um, yeah, I'd say learn what you can from my story and make the decision accordingly.
And how, if someone did want to reach out to you specifically, how would they go about that? How could they get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can find me just on like LinkedIn or X or whatever. My name is Zach Welchel. There's not too many Zach Welchels out there, so it should be easy to find.
And then anything you would want to, maybe give a shout out, promote. I'm obviously the My Budget Coach. We've talked about it, but that's that's at www.mybudgetcoach.com all together, right?
Yeah, mybudgetcoach.com. I'd say that like if money stresses you out or if you want to be more intentional with your money, budgeting is something that a lot of people have discounted or have said like, I don't want to do a budget. It sounds restrictive. It's not that. It's actually super freeing. Like if you have a plan for your money, it's amazing how much peace and clarity that brings. So I'd say be willing to give it a try. I'm a coach on the platform. I'd love to work with you. But yeah, budgeting in any sense, wherever you do it, is totally worth it. Go find a tool and do it.
And on X, that's at My Budget Coach HQ. Is that right?
Yeah, and all the socials, there's an HQ after it because we couldn't get the just the non HQ everywhere, so we made it consistent.
Thank you for coming on the show, Zach. This has been a lot of fun. As always, I learned a lot listening to you. I always do, and that's what I love about having conversations with you. So thanks so much for coming on to the show.
James, it is always a pleasure. I miss you all dearly at Caliberty, and it is always fun to get to come back and talk to you guys.
All right. Well, this has been the /. If you'd like to get in touch with us, drop us a line at the / at caliberty.com. See you next time. The Forward Slash podcast is created by Caliberty. Our director is Dylan Courts, producer Ryan Wilson, with editing by John Corey and Jeremy Brown. Marketing support comes from Taylor Blessing. I'm your host, James Carmen, and thank you for listening.